Hey guys, what the frick is up? I have this red circle on me because I went out last night. It's not like a new tattoo or anything. I just needed to make that abundantly clear. My nose is running because I'm eating these ghost pepper potato chips from Trader Joe's. This is my lunch right now. That and then just like spoon in the cowboy caviar. I'm also side questing of painting my nails a clear coat. Can you tell? I really don't like the way that my fingers look. I think they have like a certain unevenness to them that I don't really appreciate, and I don't really enjoy how rings look on them other than on like the actual ring finger. But this is very beside the point, and I'm also letting my toes air dry. So there's a lot going on right now. Like the table is just very messy. And it's also Mother's Day. Shout out to my mom. I don't know, that's me though. Shout out to my mom and me and being a woman and being a mother. I went to church this morning. I never really know how productive I'm gonna be until I go to church in the morning, only because it's like a nice routine. It's not that I'm really listening, which is probably the whole point of why people go to church. I'm not a big listener while I'm in the holy space. However, I am just kind of like going through the routine and making sure that I have like predictable events to keep myself a little bit more sane throughout the day. And it also gets me up earlier. And then once I come out of the church, I'm like, fuck yeah, let's like start the day and let's early bird gets the worm type shit. And actually, funny enough, I saw four birds get the early worm this morning. So it was very, very much true. And my body was recovering from hot pot last night. Sorry, in a squeaky chair. My body was recovering from hot pot last night, and also from crepes, and also from the 5K I ran with my kids, and having this energy drink. So my body's just like not really having it recently. But today I think I was just thinking about like the topic of good growth I've made towards missing my ex, because I saw this comment that someone made, which is very much true. They're like, I didn't watch all of your video. I skipped ahead because you didn't really like have a good point going. And then at the end, I realized that you're the problem. And I was like, okay, I know this is a hateful comment and I shouldn't take it to heart, but it's honestly true. Everything I'm talking about, the problems are my own. So I guess like in a weird sense, I am the one creating the problems. So the problem is kind of revolving around me, which I have the power to change that. So that's what I'm trying to do. I think that comment, that negative tone was definitely not needed, but I think it was a good like motivator to get me going into, I don't know, it's like a passive aggressive way to inspire me to keep going on my healing journey or whatever journey I'm going on. So last night I didn't drink as much as I usually do. Like I didn't even get close to like 3 drinks. I just had probably two. And then I came home before 12. Like it was just such an inspiring. I was feeling overwhelmed. I was feeling my body kind of like a lot of sensations building up around me. There was like loud music, which wasn't the issue. I think it was just like the people that were around me were the issue. I was very hyper vigilant of my surroundings, and then I thought I recognized someone who I didn't really want to end up seeing, but it really wasn't him. But then I just kind of like all these things just kept building on top of each other, and I was thirsty and I was tired, and I was like, oh my gosh, like can my friend please just drive me home? And he drove me home, which I was so thankful for. And so I got up early to go to church, and now I just feel like way more regulated than I think I would have just when I probably like a few weeks ago would have just stayed out, just probably drank more and forgotten about whatever worries I was having. But I'm happy to report that feeling very safe, and comfortable within the bounds of my home and spending time with my family. So that's nice. More progress towards things. I was asked, like, my friend made this comment yesterday, and they were like, yeah, I think you talk about your ex a lot. And I was like, well, shit. Which one are we, like, which one am I talking about a lot? Because I actually don't feel like I talk about my ex that much. But he was just saying that it's like framed in the way where talking about your ex at all is already too much, which I kind of like. I think that's a good like boundary for me to have, because less like I feel like I'll be more cognizant or more aware of when I'm trying to make little relations to my ex, and they don't need to be said out loud because no one really cares, and it's like they're not in your life anymore. There doesn't need to be like this verbal reminder. It can just kind of be like a mental acknowledgement of certain things. And an example of this was like, I was listening to a song that my ex showed me, and at the time, I probably would have said out loud, like, "Oh my gosh, we can't listen to the song because it reminds me of my ex." But instead of saying that, I could have just been like, "Oh, can we skip the song? Like, what the fuck? Like, why are these just like, these are just very simple things that I can do to kind of like shift myself away from just like talking and reminding other people and also reminding myself of my exes. This isn't one particular ex is. So I feel like this is also just like a healthy kind of step towards um, getting getting over some of these last little humps of like sadness towards that person, or maybe sadness towards myself. I think a lot of the time when we do grieve our ex, we grieve parts of ourselves, and that's not new information at all, but it's just kind of like, I was explaining that I really don't feel like I talk about my ex that much, but to him I did, which was fair because he has a different kind of like metric to weigh it on. But I was explaining to myself, or I was explaining to him later, that I was like, I feel like I actually have a healthier version of myself when I think about my ex. Wait, this whole video is now very like ironic because it's like, oh, you shouldn't talk about your ex that much, but here I am just like 6 minutes deep talking about my ex. But I swear to God, this is gonna go somewhere. I was kind of thinking that I was like, well, I actually feel a lot better towards how I viewed my ex previously, because I think as time goes on, you know this person less and less and less, and it's kind of like very refreshing and helpful to remind myself that this person is not who you remember them to be anymore. This person is a totally different version of themselves now. So it's like you're mourning someone who isn't even like present in the world anymore. Like, what is the point of thinking about this person when that version of them is only going to exist in that chapter of your life? And I think it's actually super helpful for me and for potentially other people to think of, because it's like the feelings that I miss and it's the moments that we had together, but it's not actually the person anymore because that person doesn't exist. He's not in the world, or they're not in the world. They're going about their own daily life in a way that you probably have no idea. I mean, they may be kind of a semblance of themselves, but they have so many other experiences that have built up over the years and over the months of you not speaking or trying to not speak, that you can't really miss someone who's not there anymore, which I think has actually been super helpful in my own little journey. Because I think a lot of people try to kind of like stay in touch through social media, perhaps like, stalking their ex. These are unhealthy behaviors that people potentially do, like stalking their ex on social media, checking in with like maybe their friends, or checking in with their Instagram, or like looking at old pictures of you together. And luckily I deleted all of our pictures together. I'm not friends with any of our like mutual friends anymore. And luckily he has taken the steps to remove himself very far away from my present life. So I only have like the unreliable narrator of my like rose-colored glasses looking back on a relationship. And it's nice to know that I'm not that same person, and I shouldn't assume that he's going to be that same person. And a lot of the feelings that we had during that specific time are only going to exist in that time. Not to say that they can't come up for other people in the future, because that's what my hope is for myself. However, all of this kind of like bundle chapter of my life, there's nothing really to like mourn anymore, because it's just kind of going to exist in that space, and there's no way to actually go back and relive that with this person, because we both have very different worldviews and values, and they may not even align anymore. And maybe they didn't even back then. Because I think a lot of the time when we do get in relationships, or at least in my relationships, a lot of them are based off of proximity versus actual chemistry. And I think that speaks a lot to who I kind of let into my life and the standards that I set myself back then. However, now moving into this this new era of like not living alone, but living with my roommate, and kind of just having the financial freedom of my job, along with wanting to go out and experience different places and settings and meet new people, and just kind of be that like not free-spirited person that I was before, but just kind of that like free-flowing person. I think that it's been a lot easier for myself to adjust to that, and to like not confine myself to this like romantic interest that was just kind of based off of closeness, like geographical closeness versus actual chemistry. Not to say that we didn't have chemistry. I think our chemistry was definitely there, but it just feels a little bit different now, and I'm happy to kind of report that I don't miss this person as much as I once had previously, and the way that it kind of pulled in my body. Like, I think it was definitely just like the withdrawal symptoms of having this person around all the time. You know, you develop that like chemical closeness to like the predictability of someone's actions and their emotions, and when all of that is kind of ripped away, and you know, it's kind of like take and go for a while, your brain is all confused, and it's like, what is going on? I don't know. But now, since I've actually gone through, I feel like a more healthier healing journey than I once did before. Like, I think before I was having some sort of like pseudo healing journey where I was like, oh my God, I feel so much better, blah, 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 blah. But really deep down, I was still missing that person, because I had hope, or I don't know, I had some sort of sadness that was holding myself back. But now I just feel like I wouldn't even know what to say. And there's probably nothing that could be said, because it doesn't matter. Like, we don't know each other anymore. And I think that's kind of like the intimacy of never speaking again. You know, you kind of, I mean, it's not that I'm great. I'm not perfect at respecting people's space, because I have this sort of like ideal scenario of how things play out, and I'm just like, oh, we can all just be friends, and we can all just be go-lucky people, and like none of these attachments will form, and we don't need to make things complicated. Like, we can try to just like exist at a distance. But yeah, now I just feel like a little bit better about my healing, not healing, just like the way I view myself and the way I view other people. And honestly, this is gonna sound so weird, but I feel like that Channel 5 Brian Nome Camgirl interview was like monumental into, like, this is crazy, but that's like monumental into like changing my perspective recently on people. Because I think I grew up, you know, in a very like all girls Catholic school area where I had this narrow mindset of who could be, you know, how I was to present myself to be accepted, and how other people had to present themselves to be accepted, and all of these things that were deemed uncool and cool. And now I'm just like, dude, it's not even nonchalant. It's like, why would I give a fuck about what other people are doing? And why do I give a fuck about what they like and what they don't like and how they present themselves? And not to say that I was like homophobic or like anything like that. I was very accepting of all of that. It was just like some of the kinkiness of the interview that I was like, this woman has such a great like head on her shoulders about other people's life and how it doesn't really impact her at the end of the day. And that's kind of how I want to be, because I shouldn't be letting this external person, like ghost figure of relationship past, impact who I am now. And if it took me a year to fucking figure that out, so be it. I'm going to give myself grace for that, because, you know, relationships impact people differently, and we're all just kind of like trying to figure it out. Being 23 is difficult, so I don't know. I feel better. This is like a good day. I just feel very like regulated, and regulated in the way that I'm viewing my past ex. I think regulated in terms of other domains would not apply. It does not carry over like that. However, that's gonna be like a different video. I just kind of wanted to come on here and like remind myself that you're doing good and you're making progress, and like even if it's little and slow, it's still progress. And you need to give yourself some space and some time to figure that out, because it's not going to happen overnight. And sometimes you just need to eat cowboy caviar and do your nails and go to New York and just fuck around, and live. I don't know, not even live, just like make mistakes, you know? It's like, and also something I've noticed is that I'm saying like, you know, a lot. And I think that people who have a really, I don't know why, but it, like people who have a really good head on their shoulders say that because they want to like, it's like setting feelers out for how like the crowd is gauging what you're saying. And also it reminds me that you're not just like talking to yourself, and you actually have other people who want to respond, or maybe even like God forbid, contradict what you're saying or go against or add some sort of knowledge. So I really like how people like add in, like, or like how people just kind of like check in with those little like conversation like it's like throwing a fishing line out, kind of like, and then you reel it in sometimes, and then you refill I don't even know what I'm saying anymore, but yeah, hope everyone's having a good Mother's Day. Shout out to the caregivers and the moms and the feminine beings in the world. Y'all are awesome, and everyone appreciates you more than they say, and if they don't say, then I appreciate you. And yeah, okay, anyways, have a good day. Bye.